Welcome back or welcome to Elements of Ewaha, where I talk about things that interest me, affect me, or am very passionate about. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the current state of Disney programming. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The Walt Disney Company is backing away from DEI initiatives to refocus on its core entertainment business mission, according to an internal memo obtained by Reuters. Disney's Chief Human Resources Officer Sonia Coleman penned a letter to the company's 230,000 employees explaining changes in corporate culture to more closely align our initiatives with our business goals and company values. Executive compensation weighed 70% on reaching financial targets and 30% on other performance factors, which no longer include diversity and inclusion as another performance factor and will be replaced by a talent strategy. The company has rebranded its Reimagine Tomorrow website, which explained Disney's diversity, equity, and inclusion positions and actions to My Disney Today to attract the best, most talented people to contribute to business success. Disney maintains inclusion as a core value, integrity, creativity, collaboration, community, inclusion, but the memo emphasizes belonging instead of diversity and substitutes equity by referencing to its corporate culture where everyone can excel.
Oh. Damn,
So the first thing I want to talk about is Disney's mistreatment of Tiana. Now, The Princess and the Frog is my favorite movie of all time. Tiana is my favorite Disney princess, and she is the best Disney princess. But Disney has literally been doing her dirty since her movie, with her being a frog for 75% of the movie and also having to face discrimination because this was New Orleans in the 1920s. The South in the 1920s, whoo! But I was always looking forward to Tiana's future appearances since her movie. In 2014, Tiana made a cameo in Disney's Sophia the First, which I enjoyed. I loved Sophia the First growing up, and seeing the rest of the Disney princesses cameo there. But in 2018, when we saw Tiana again in Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, where Vanellope meets all the other Disney princesses, they looked the same way as when they were first introduced, but Tiana looked drastically different. So if it wasn't for Black people pushing back on, hey, this was not the Tiana we once knew, Disney would have gotten away with whitewashing their only Black princess. The Princess and the Frog came out in 2009. And since The Princess and the Frog came out in 2009, the following decade, the 2010s, Tiana had only made 2 appearances. 1, the cameo in Sophia and the First, that was in 2014, and 2, her cameo in Ralph Breaks the Internet, which was in 2018. Now, the Disney princesses to succeed her, and this was after Disney made the shift from 2D animation that we saw in The Princess and the Frog to 3D animation, which we saw in Disney's Tangled, starring Rapunzel, and Frozen, and Brave, and Moana, the following movies after that. They were all able to get more content than Tiana did. Tangled was able to produce a 3-season spin-off series. Frozen got a sequel and was also able to get multiple shorts in between Frozen and Frozen 2. Frozen 3 and Frozen 4 are also on the way a few years from now. And recently, Moana just got a sequel. Now, The interesting thing about Moana 2 was back in 2020, it was announced that Disney would be making a spin off series for Moana as well as Tiana. So the Tiana series was supposed to be a sequel to the Princess and the Frog movie. And in the series, Tiana would set off on her great adventure as the newly crowned Princess of Maldonia, but a calling to her New Orleans past isn't far behind. And I was so excited to see this series because Tiana would not be turned into a frog again. It would follow Tiana's adventures as a human and not a frog. And I know we would have gotten some amazing scenes with Tiana and Naveen and amazing music. And this news of the series kept me going for the next 3 years. Even when a lot of people were trying to say, oh, Disney's gonna make a live action version of The Princess and the Frog and fan casting a bunch of different black actresses to play Tiana, I just wasn't interested in a live action Princess and the Frog because I don't want to see CGI frogs for 2 hours. If there is a live action Princess and the Frog, I would have wanted it to be a sequel to the original movie rather than me seeing CGI frogs for 2 hours, because that honestly would have creeped me out. And so when they announced that there was a showrunner for this series, I really thought that the series was a go. But I guess it wasn't. But the Moana series was turned into Moana 2, which came out last year. But the Tiana series is what you guys want to scrap. Disney literally came out with a new Tiana ride a few months ago, and yet they have the audacity to cancel the Tiana series. So literally the only things we have under Tiana's belt are Tiana's movie, where she is a frog, 75% of the movie, the cameo in Sophia the First, her cameo in Ralph Breaks the Internet, where they whitewashed her originally, and this cute little hair commercial of her. Like, we're starving out here. While the other Disney princesses get short after short, series after series, spin-off, and sequel after sequel, but Tiana gets nothing. Then to save face, Disney was saying that they were working on a short form special for Tiana, but wouldn't that just take longer to come out? Like, I would rather you guys just finish the series and then add the special on top of that, instead of just scrapping the series that has been in works for 5 years. And then to save face being like, we're going to work on a shorter special. That doesn't make any sense. The next thing I want to talk about is the casting announcements that came out for Descendants 5. And literally, my main point is, why are we going backwards? How did we go from the Descendants movies having at least 2 brown-skinned black girls, from Descendants 2 to Descendants 4, to now casting people that pass the brown paper bag tests? We had Uma in Descendants 2, played by China M. McClain, who was also in Descendants 3 and 4. Celia, played by Jada Marie, that was also in Descendants 3. And then Descendants 4, we had Dara Renee, who played Juliana, Uma's aunt, and Morgan Dudley, who played Ella, the teenage version of Brandy's Cinderella. To now casting people that fit the brown paper bag test. What's interesting about the recent casting announcement for Descendants 5 is they were talking about casting the children of Dr. Facilier and Smee. Did they forget that Dr. Facilier had kids as well as Smee. How is it Dr. Facilier had two brown-skinned daughters, Freddie, that was in Descendants Wicked World. In season 1, she was voiced by China and McClain. And then in season 2, she was voiced by Lauren McClain, her sister. Both brown-skinned women, right? And then the live-action Descendants 3, his daughter Celia was in the movie, and Jada Marie is a brown-skinned girl. And Dr. Facilier was also in Descendants 3, a brown-skinned black man with brown-skinned daughters, to having a son who passes the brown paper bag test. Unless Dr. Facilier was fooling around with some white lady or some Creole lady, I don't understand how we went from having brown-skinned daughters to a light-skinned or a biracial son. And then they cast the son of Smee as if Squeaky and Squirmy from the third movie don't exist. Sure, they had one line, but they still exist. And I already know the writers are going to pass it off as because Red and Chloe went back in time, this is why their kids look different now. But really? And then they're also going to say that because Juliana and Ella are from the past, that's why they're not in this movie. And it's just laziness, because there are numerous talented black actresses out there that they could have wrote a role for, but they just refuse to do that. As of now, there are only 2 dark-skinned black girls on Disney right now. Taylor Cora, who plays Winter in Wizards Beyond Waverly Place, and Leah Savay Jeffries, who plays Annabeth Chase on Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I hope in future projects that Disney does do right by black girls, because they haven't been doing that recently. They canceled Saturdays and they barely promoted the show, removed it off Disney Plus. They canceled Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and I just finished season 2B and it was so good. I'm glad that Moon Girl at least had a satisfying ending, because if it ended on a cliffhanger, I would have been pissed. But I would have loved to see a season 3 where we'd see Lunella's adventures at S.H.I.E.L.D., but we'll never get to see that, unfortunately. And I hope for the remaining characters that have yet to be introduced in the remaining 3 seasons of Percy Jackson that they can continue to cast black actors who are of darker skin tones, brown and dark skin, black actors and other actors of color to play these characters. Now, I just want to segue into the remaining Black-led projects that are supposed to come out on Disney Plus later this year. So Disney, you better not shelve them. And the first show I want to talk about is Ironheart. And I've been waiting on Ironheart almost as long as I would have been waiting on the Tiana series. And Ironheart is set to premiere on June 24th. And the premise of the show is following the events of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, MIT student Riri Williams returns home to Chicago, where she becomes entangled with the enigmatic Peter Robbins / the Hood, discovering secrets that pit technology against magic and setting her on a path of danger and adventure. And also, I'm glad to see more college stories, so I can't wait to tune into Ironheart. I'm so excited to see Dominique, Lyric, and Reagan's faces again on screen. The next series I want to talk about is the Eyes of Wakanda series. And this series is set to follow Wakandan warriors that carry out dangerous missions around the world to retrieve vibranium artifacts throughout history. And the show is set to premiere on August 6th on Disney Plus. And the last series I want to talk about is the Wonder Man series, and that is set to premiere in December of 2025. But Disney needs to stop giving Black-led stories, especially Black girl-led stories, the short end of the stick. Why is it always these stories you see as expendable and you see as disposable, when the white-led stories, you see them as profitable, when literally a lot of their Black-led stories have been some of their most successful stories to date? Black people do show up. Black people do support these shows. So yes, Black people deserve to have representation each generation. The younger generation shouldn't have to rely on stuff that my generation and the older generations have grown up on for representation. They should be able to have their own representation in addition to watching the older media that came out in previous generations. And young Black actors should be cast in more roles, especially leading roles. Like, this shouldn't be controversial to say or to want. Come on now. Anyways, y'all, that is the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe, and check out my last video right here. Anyways, y'all, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.